On a flight, I was told I didn't belong in first class. Not because of my ticket, but because of my skin. What began as humiliation in C2A turned into a global lesson about dignity, respect, and the power of silence over prejudice. This is not just my story. It's a mirror for the world. My name is Ibrahim Traoré. I am a man just like you. Born on the soil of Burkina Faso, raised under the same sun that shines on all of us. Today, I want to share a story with you. It is not a story about power, or titles, or position. It is a story about respect, about dignity, about what it truly means to be human. It happened on a flight, C2A, on a plane bound for our capital, Ouagadougou. Let me tell you what happened, in the simplest of words, so that we may all learn together. The airport was alive that afternoon. Crowds rushed in every direction, some laughing, some tired, some arguing. Bags rolled across the floor, announcements echoed above, voices mixed with footsteps. In the middle of that busyness, I was just a man, dressed in a plain black shirt with cuff sleeves. My shoes were simple but clean. My bag was small, only enough for what I needed. No suit. No expensive watch. No briefcase or laptop. I sat quietly in the first-class lounge, holding my ticket for Flight 227 to West Africa. Around me, people sipped wine, scrolled endlessly on their phones, or talked loudly about business deals. I said nothing. I simply watched. I listened. And yet, I noticed eyes on me. A man here, a woman there. They looked once, then looked again. A black man, alone, in simple clothes, seated in the first-class lounge. Their faces asked silently, "Who is he? Why is he here? He doesn't look rich. He doesn't look like a businessman." But I sat in peace, waiting for my flight like everyone else. Finally, boarding began. When my turn came, I stepped forward and handed the attendant my ticket. Her smile vanished. She looked at my face, then at my clothes, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. "Excuse me, sir," she said, holding out her arm to block me. "You must be lost. This lane is for first class." I stayed calm. I handed her my ticket again. "This is my ticket," I said softly. She took it, stared at it, and her face tightened. "C2A," she muttered under her breath. "This must be a mistake." Her eyes swept over me, sharp and full of doubt. Then her words cut deep. "Sir, this flight is not for someone of your color. You can't sit here." Nearby passengers turned their heads. A young woman gasped. A man in a suit frowned. Phones were raised, cameras ready. Her voice grew louder. "This flight is not for someone like you. You must have booked economy by mistake. Perhaps someone even used your card." I stood tall, my heart steady. "I bought a first-class ticket. That is my C2A," I said firmly. She laughed, but it was not laughter of kindness. It was mockery. "You can't even pronounce the name of this airline," she sneered. "And you expect to sit in first class?" The crowd grew restless. Whispers spread. More phones began to record. Another attendant approached, a young man with glasses. "Is everything all right here?" he asked. The woman, her name was Clara, leaned toward him and whispered, but loud enough for me to hear. "This man is trying to force his way into first class with a fake ticket." The young man took my ticket and scanned it. A soft beep followed, and a green checkmark appeared. "It's valid," he said quietly. Clara's face twisted with anger. "It doesn't matter," she snapped. "Look at him. Do you really think he belongs in C2A?" I stepped aside to let a mother with a baby through. Then I turned back. "I'm not here for drama," I said calmly. "I just want to take my seat." The young attendant hesitated. "Clara, maybe we should just... You want to lose your job over this?" She cut him off, her voice sharp like a blade. I sighed. I stepped forward. "I will take my seat now," I said, my tone calm but firm. Clara froze. Her authority slipped from her hands in front of everyone. At last, she stepped aside. But as I passed, she hissed bitterly, "Don't say I didn't warn you. Let's see how long you last in that seat." I walked into the cabin. The first-class section was cool and quiet, scented with leather seats and soft cologne. My seat, 2A, was by the window. I placed my bag in the overhead bin and sat down. From my pocket, I drew a small notebook and pen. I began to write. No anger. No frown. No sigh. Clara soon entered. She glanced at me, then turned away, serving others with a bright smile while ignoring me. 3 rows away, a man in a suit adjusted his tie and looked at me carefully. Later, I would learn his name, François Dürr, a French CO. He said nothing, but his eyes remained fixed on me. A soft chime sounded. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are preparing for takeoff. Please fasten your seatbelts." I closed my notebook and looked out of the window. The engines roared, and the plane lifted into the clouds. Inside this cabin, a storm was waiting to unfold. High above the world, silence covered the plane, but tension filled the air. I sat in 2A calm, steady, watching the sky. Clara walked down the aisle, handing out drinks. For others, her smile was warm. For me, it was cold, flat, absent. The lady beside me, seat 2B, an elderly French woman with pearl earrings, asked kindly for green tea. Clara nodded sweetly. "Of course, ma'am." Then she turned to me, her voice stripped of courtesy. "What do you want to drink?" "Just water, please," I replied gently. She rolled her eyes. "Sparkling or still?" "Pick one." "Still water is fine," I answered. She dropped the bottle onto my tray with no napkin, no smile, nothing. It nearly fell. I caught it, straightened it, and drank. My calm unsettled her. François noticed. His eyes grew sharper. Something about my silence, about my patience, made him curious. When Clara handed out hot towels, she skipped me entirely. The woman in 2B whispered, "Why is she ignoring him? He isn't causing any trouble." A man in 3C leaned to his wife. "Maybe she thinks he doesn't belong here." The plane hit turbulence. People gripped their armrests. Clara walked back, checking belts. When she reached me, she smirked. "You'd better buckle up tight. Wouldn't want you flying out of your seat." "Thank you for the reminder," I said, steady as ever. Her face hardened. My calm was her defeat. Meal service came. She set down a tray before me with sarcasm. "Here. Hope this meets your standards." "Thank you," I replied. François had seen enough. He leaned toward Clara. "Excuse me," he said quietly. "Why are you treating that man with such disrespect?" Clara flushed. "Sir, please mind your own business." "I am," François replied sharply. "This is my business." "I paid for peace, not to watch you insult a paying passenger." Heads nodded. Someone even clapped once. Clara, flustered, stormed into the galley. I closed my eyes and breathed deeply. I had faced storms before, on the ground, and in the hearts of people. This was no different. I touched the folded cloth of Burkina Faso in my pocket. I didn't wear it that day. I didn't need to. It was in my heart. The announcement came. Cabin crew, prepare for landing. 30 minutes to arrival. Clara returned once more, standing near me. I hope next time you choose the right cabin, she said coldly. You're lucky we didn't throw you off before takeoff. I looked at her, calm and steady. Sometimes, the seat we choose is not about money. It is about what we represent. I will keep choosing this seat, not for comfort, but for change. My words struck her. She could not understand them fully, but she felt small in their weight. The plane descended. The lights of Ouagadougou sparkled below. Wheels touched the ground. Passengers clapped softly. Some yawned, others stretched. But in first class, all eyes turned toward me. Clara wasn't finished. As people unbuckled, she walked up to me again. Her voice was low, venomous. I wish you had never boarded this flight, she hissed. She leaned closer, whispering so only I could hear. You smell like someone who hasn't bathed in a month. You think sitting in first class makes you clean? It doesn't. It makes this cabin stink. I blinked once, steady. My eyes met hers, calm, unbroken. I said nothing. The woman in 2B noticed Clara leaning toward me. She didn't hear all the words, but she saw Clara's face. That's enough, she said firmly. Stay out of this. Clara snapped. No, I won't, the woman replied. You've gone too far. Clara laughed nervously. You think he belongs here? Look at him. Francois stood. His voice was steady, commanding. Clara, he said, you have embarrassed yourself. You have embarrassed this airline. You have embarrassed all of us. She froze. He has done nothing wrong, Francois continued. He paid for this seat. He carried himself with grace. He showed more dignity than you could ever understand. You may not even know who he is, but I could see he was a man of great worth. Clara's face burned with both anger and shame. I did what I thought was right. We have standards here. No, Francois cut in sharply. You don't have standards, you have prejudice. Passengers gathered near first class. Some had caught only parts of the confrontation, others had witnessed it all. Many phones were already recording. The cabin door opened and a cool breeze swept inside. Airport staff stood waiting below with steps rolled to the ground. But something was different this time. On the tarmac, a sleek black car with tinted windows was parked. 5 soldiers in uniform stood firmly at attention. A long red carpet stretched beside the aircraft steps. Passengers leaned toward the windows, whispering. Is there a celebrity on board? One asked. Maybe a member of royalty. Another guessed. Clara looked unsettled. We didn't receive any VIP alert. Just then, the young attendant approached her, phone in hand. Clara, you need to see this, he said. She snatched the phone and glanced at the screen. Her face went pale. It was a photo of me, not in plain clothes, but in full military uniform, standing before thousands of people. Flags waved behind me. Soldiers saluted in formation. The caption beneath read, President Ibrahim Traoré, President of Burkina Faso. Clara's hand shook violently. She looked up, scanning the cabin for me. I was already on my feet, calmly lifting my bag from the overhead bin. No, this can't be, she whispered. I walked toward the exit. Wait, she called out, her voice suddenly fragile. Sir, I stopped and turned slightly. Her lips trembled. I didn't know. I didn't mean to. I met her eyes, calm yet unyielding. Would it have made any difference if you had known? She opened her mouth, but no words came. Respect, I continued, is not a gift reserved for the powerful. It is a duty owed to every human being. Then I walked out. The sun outside was brilliant. The soldiers saluted sharply. One stepped forward and opened the car door. I paused before entering, turning to look back at the plane. Through the windows, passengers watched silently. Some had tears in their eyes, others shook their heads in shame. Francois exited quickly and caught up with me. "Mr. President," he said humbly, "please forgive us. I had no idea. You carry yourself with such humility. It is admirable." I gave him a gentle smile. Sometimes we must walk low to see how deep people's hearts truly are. We shook hands. Back in the cabin, Clara collapsed into an empty seat, pale and trembling. The young attendant stood beside her. "You didn't just insult a president," he said quietly. "You insulted every one of us who looks like him." The captain emerged from the cockpit, his expression grim. "Prepare a full written report," he ordered Clara, "and expect questioning." Clara buried her face in her hands. Outside, cameras flashed as the red carpet stretched on. I entered the black car, not with pride, but with purpose. I had boarded as a passenger, but I disembarked as a lesson. Before the plane had even fully unloaded, the story was everywhere. Videos spread online. People saw Clara shouting, saw me sitting calm, saw Francois defending me. When the truth emerged that I was the president of Burkina Faso, the internet erupted. Some were outraged, others ashamed, many inspired. Inside the airport, chaos unfolded. Staff whispered frantically. Security officers straightened their posture. "Did you hear?" one worker said. "The president was on our flight, and Clara insulted him." In a small office near the jet bridge, Clara sat trembling. The airline manager paced in front of her. "Do you realize what you've done?" he demanded. "I didn't know," she whispered. "That's not the point," he shot back. "It's not about who he is. It's about what you said. This flight is not for someone of your color. You smell like someone who hasn't bathed in a month. Do you understand the gravity?" Tears streamed down Clara's face. "I was just doing my job," she murmured. "No," the manager said firmly. "You abused your position. And you've done it before." Her eyes widened. "What do you mean? You think we haven't had complaints? You think this is the first time?" Clara froze in shame. Meanwhile, outside, I sat in the car. The airport director stood nervously beside me, sweat beading his forehead. "Mr. President, we are deeply sorry. If we had known..." I raised my hand to stop him. "That is the problem," I said quietly. "You only care when you know." He fell silent. "I flew today as a simple man. I wanted to feel what the people feel. And now I know she did not insult just me. She insulted millions of Africans, poor and rich alike. She revealed how deeply prejudice still lingers in some hearts." The director swallowed hard. "She has been removed from duty." I said nothing. My silence was louder than anger. A reporter rushed forward. "Mr. President, will you press charges?" "No," I replied calmly. "I do not need to jail anyone to make a point. The world has already seen what happened. That is enough." Back inside, Clara sat alone. Her uniform felt heavy, like a costume. Her phone buzzed with messages, friends, colleagues, even her mother. "I raised you better than this. I am disappointed." Clara dropped the phone, her heart crushed. That evening, I stood before the press outside the presidential palace in Ouagadougou. Dressed in my military jacket with the Burkina Faso flag pinned to my chest, I spoke clearly, slowly, for the world. "This morning, I boarded a plane as a regular passenger. I wore no title. I carried no entourage. I did not need people to know my name. But what I received was more than poor service. It was hate. It was disrespect. It was shame. Not for me, but for those who believe power only wears a suit. For those who think skin color defines status. I paused. I want the world to understand. No human is above another. You do not need to be a president to deserve respect. You only need to be human. The crowd erupted in applause. Some shouted, "Yes," while others wiped tears. I lifted my hand. "I forgive her," I said. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "Yes, I forgive her. Not because I am weak, but because the lesson has already been delivered. She has seen the consequences of her actions. Now she must choose, grow or remain small." I concluded with a final line. True power is not in the title you carry. It is in how you treat others. That night, the story raced across Africa, Europe, the world. Shared in classrooms, offices, and homes. Teachers used it as a lesson. Judge no one by their appearance. Everyone deserves respect. You never know who someone is. Clara sat alone in her room watching my speech. Her eyes were swollen, her face tired. She couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. But my words, "I forgive her," broke her heart. She picked up a pen and wrote a letter by hand. "Dear President Ibrahim Traoré, I am sorry. Not because you are a president, but because you are a human being, and I failed to treat you as one. I was blind with pride, poisoned by ignorance. You showed me strength I have never seen. You had every right to humiliate me, yet you forgave me. I will never forget this lesson. I pray I can prove I have changed. Clara." She sent the letter, unsure if I would ever read it, but hoping. At the presidential palace, sunlight poured across my desk. Clara's letter lay before me. I read it twice. Her words were simple, honest. No excuses, only regret and a promise to grow. I folded it and placed it in a drawer. My assistant entered with a file. "Mr. President, we have received hundreds of letters. Support from citizens, apologies from airline staff, even artwork from children. The people are touched, sir." I nodded. "I didn't plan for this. I only wanted peace that day." "I know, sir," he replied softly. "But your silence spoke louder than 1,000 speeches." I looked out the window. "It is not enough to forgive," I said. "We must educate. What happened that day is a mirror. It reflects what still exists in many hearts. Prepare a national campaign. Call it the Dignity Project. Teach respect in schools. Train workers. Promote kindness. Let this story become more than news. Let it become change." "Yes, Mr. President," he said with a smile. In France, Clara never returned to work. Suspended without pay, she instead spent her days volunteering at shelters for immigrants and refugees. She listened to their stories, served food, cleaned bathrooms, folded sheets. Slowly, her heart began to change. One morning, she noticed a little African girl sitting alone, clutching a torn teddy bear. Clara sat beside her. "What's your name?" she asked softly. "Aminata," the girl whispered. "That's a beautiful name." Clara smiled. "People at school call me dirty," Aminata said quietly. Clara's heart broke. "They are wrong," she said firmly. "You are not dirty. You are beautiful, just like your name." That night, Clara wept again, not from shame this time, but from understanding. Words could wound for years, even in the hearts of children. She wrote to me once more, "Dear Mr. President, I don't expect a reply. But I am changing. Not because I was caught, but because I was wrong. Every day, I need people who remind me of you, quiet, gentle, full of worth. I see them now. Truly see them. Thank you for your silence." It was loud enough to wake me. Months later, I spoke at a university in Ghana on leadership and character. The hall was packed with students and journalists. I walked on stage dressed simply. The audience fell silent. My story is not unique, I began. Millions face disrespect every day. Not because they have done wrong, but because someone decided they weren't good enough. I was called dirty, told I didn't belong, laughed at, not as a president, but as a man with dark skin. I stayed silent, not because I could not speak, but because I wanted to listen. The students leaned forward. Listen, I told them, to the pain of others, to your own heart, to the voice that says everyone deserves respect. Behind me, a quote lit up on the screen. If your power makes others feel small, it is not power. Thunderous applause filled the hall. That quote was later painted on school walls, printed on shirts, and shared in airports around the world. If your power makes others feel small, it is not power, it is weakness. Years later, people remembered that flight as the day the world paused. The day a simple man in C2A taught a lesson in dignity. The day a proud woman's heart broke and began to rebuild. The day silence roared louder than hate. My brothers and sisters, let us learn from this. Treat every person with respect, not because of their title, but because they are human. Build a world where no one is judged by clothes, skin, or seat. Choose dignity, always. And to you watching this story, if it touched your heart, share it. Tell your friends. Spread the message. Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications, so together, we can keep learning what it truly means to be human. Thank you.